Welcome you this evening. It's going to be a very unique and interesting presentation by Debbie Zegalia. But before I introduce her, of course, I want to take care of some housekeeping. The restroom is at the far back through the door on my right, your left. So, feel free. Instead of the raffle prizes that we've done in the past, where we'd have one every month, excuse me, we are trying something new. That if we can generate enough revenue, we won't have to ask you for money as often. So it's a lottery ticket raffle. So the number at the top of your ticket needs to match the lottery drawing on a particular day, the 3-digit drawing at 7 p.m. And one ticket is $5, or you get 3 tickets for $10. And the drawing is during the month of October. So you hold on to your tickets. And your ticket's good every day for the month of October, unless you win. Excuse me. So if you're interested, I have tickets at the back. They'll be available after Debbie gives her presentation. The prizes, for if you win during the week, it's $25 prize. If it's on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, it's $50. And then if you win on Halloween night, it's $100. So it's a really good return on your investment. You can buy as many tickets as you want, as often as you want. You can also purchase them on our website, www.grsnp.net. And then in the upper tab, you'll see membership and shop, and you click on that, and it's the first 2 items on the shopping page. Excuse me. We will have pizza and drinks following the presentation tonight. We also, on the white table back here, have some older editions of our newsletter, The Searcher. Those are free for the taking, so help yourself. And our speaker next month is a lady named Pamela Hedgedis. She's known as the Lady Digger. She's a treasure hunter, and she explores old ruins in Pennsylvania, looking for artifacts and documenting what she finds. And that will be on June 21st, Wednesday, June 21st. So now let me introduce Debbie Zegalia. Even as a young girl, Debbie had a very strong interest in fabric and fibers. She collected pieces of scrap fabric for her doll clothes. As she spent summers on her grandparents' farm, she collected string and burlap from feed bags. She was always trying to make something from them. Her mother and grandmother cut up all of the old clothes for making rag rugs. Remember the old rag rugs? And Debbie would sit on the floor as a young child and roll them into balls for the weaving process. Debbie has had a great interest in old-time crafts. She makes handmade soaps and candles. She crochets and cross stitches, needle points, and knits. She has added weaving and spinning to her skills. She participates in numerous educational events, and she's a member of the Spinners Web Spinning Guild in Glenburn, Pennsylvania, and she's also a member of the Southern Tier Lamb to Loom in Binghamton, New York. So please welcome Debbie Zegalia.
Oops, I'm sorry. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Didn't expect so many people to have an interest in spinning fibers. I'm just really going to give you an overview because spinning has been in existence for over 10,000 years. So to cover 10,000 years in an hour, it's a little hard. Spinning fibers to form a thread has been in existence for 10,000 years. We believe they originated in the Middle East, and early spinning was just done by hand, just taking vegetable fibers and twisting them by hand. And that really wasn't working out too well because it took an awful long time. So they decided they were going to make a spindle. And their first spindles were nothing more than a rock with a hole in it and a stick. And twisting I don't spindle, by the way. So this just kind of gives you an idea. This was some of the earliest spinning there was. The earliest spinning wheels that we know came from Persia about 1257. Although the Chinese claimed they had the first wheel at 1270. So it's a little skeptical. First spinning wheels really didn't have a rim on them. They were just bamboo sticks sticking up. And they did not have treadles either. They were hand cranks to spin the fiber. Rimless wheels were used early on in Greece, Yugoslavia, Bulgaria, Italy, and Switzerland, but they didn't reach Europe until like the 13th century. The earliest flyer wheel is a picture from southern Germany dated about 1475. When we talk about a flyer wheel, this part is your flyer, and this is the most important part of the wheel. If it doesn't have that, it's not going to spin anything. It was still a hand crank wheel. Treadle-driven wheels appeared about the 15th century. And we know some of the early pilgrims, and we do have a picture of a wheel on the Mayflower, and it was a Dutch wheel. And they had a thing for like little bubble legs. Everything has bubbles. So that's how we know that that was a Dutch wheel. We can't find anything from Jamestown, the earliest settlement. The first wave of colonists arrived, and they brought all these early European wheels with them, mostly from, it was the German and the Dutch and the Irish who came first. So those wheels were very popular, and that's what they brought with them because they were coming here to a new world. They did not have clothing, had no way to make clothing, so they had to bring spinning wheels and weaving looms with them. Settling the colonies, it brought a lot of progress. Immigration kind of slowed down in 1775 due to the Revolutionary War, but progress didn't. The Industrial Revolution was 1760 to 1840, which mechanized our country. In 1830 and 1840, we know the South was growing cotton at a record rate, and cotton was king, and it led to a lot of manufacturing. In 1860, New England mills consumed 283.7 million pounds of cotton, or about 67% of the 422.6 million pounds of cotton used by all U.S. mills. New England mills had 5 million spindles in operation in 1860 on the eve of the Civil War. We were getting cotton from the South. The New England economy was dependent on the South. Excuse me, even though we were just about on the eve of Civil War. Spinning wheels brought to the United States in our area, like I said, are mostly German, Irish, Dutch. There are a few Slovak wheels. I have two. They're chunkier wheels, a little bit heavier. One nice tidbit is in 1918, the start of the war, Woodrow Wilson brought a flock of sheep, 18 sheep, to the White House. And it was led by an ornery old ram called Old Ike. And he was famous for chewing tobacco. He noshed on any cigar butt he could find. He was no fan of humans. Rams generally aren't. They're not a lamb you want to mess with. The White House was really great pasture land. It was really rich. The grass was nice. But we were, like I said, entering World War I. So they decided that they were going to put these sheep on the White House lawn so that they didn't have to have people cut the grass so the men could enlist in the war. And they were going to raise money through wool sales. The animals with the best quality fleece were sheared and their wool was sold at auction. The states received a few fleeces to be auctioned off with the imprimatur of White House wool. The first sale in 1918 raised $30,000 for the Red Cross. The next auction next year raised $52,823 for the Red Cross, an average of about $1,000 a pound. To this day, it remains the most expensive wool ever sold. Ike's fleece, incidentally, sold for a mind-blowing $10,000 a pound. We don't know who bought it. We have no idea, but the money was given to the Red Cross, and the last auction, I believe, it went to the Salvation Army. And the sheep kind of outlived the war, and then they retired to a farm in Maryland is where they put them. But again, after the war, the country was flourishing, and some of these wheels were hobbyist wheels because we had already gone through Industrial Revolution. Now we had mechanized spinning, we had mechanized weaving. We were able to really produce an enormous amount of fabric, textiles, and clothes. In this area, in Port Royal, Pennsylvania, there was a man named Hartman. He had 20 mills from 1921 to 1942. In 1880, in Hawley, the Hawley Silk Mill was called the Belmont Silk Mill. And silk in this area was really popular. Silk isn't really spun, it's thrown. But we say it's spun. This area had an abundance of mulberry trees, and silkworms thrived here. So we had tons of silk mills, and with the mills came factories, and we produced record numbers of clothing here in Pennsylvania. We made nightgowns, dresses, aprons, everything. I did work in a few factories in the 1970s. And at that time, our country really was booming. And if anybody remembers back then, some people do, that if you had money in the banks, certificates of deposit were paying like 20%, 24%. So that was a lot of money. Unfortunately, spinning, weaving, and textile production in Pennsylvania, as well as the South and New England, has declined greatly because of foreign imports. Right now, we are exporting 60% of our cotton is exported to China, which they use, and they send back to us in the form of clothing. Now we do have a new president, so possibly we can start to manufacture again, which I think would be a really good idea. Last year we went down south to Georgia, and when I first got into this, there was a man down in the Carolinas, and he had a sock factory. And he was selling off all of his sock machines because the foreign imports had put him out of business. About 2 years ago, I think he pretty much liquidated everything. And about 6 or 8 months ago, he put a notice up on Craigslist. If anybody bought his sock machines and weren't using them, he'd like to have them back. And he was willing to buy them back. And he does plan to go back into manufacturing. So it's possible that maybe it won't be as large as it ever was, but hopefully we can start to manufacture some of our clothes so they don't say made in China or made in Malaysia or made someplace else. Hobbyists, this has gone through phases. Spinning wheels, the immigrants brought here, like I said, early on. Probably this little guy on the end was a wedding wheel. This wheel, when I got it, came in a box about that big. It was all broken down. It just comes apart in pieces. And it is dated 1879. I do believe it's a wedding wheel. It's written in German, and I can't read German, so I'm not sure exactly what it says. Planning on taking it to my spinning guild and have one of the women, Ursula, look at it because I know she speaks German. This is also a German wheel. I got this at an auction down in Ephrata, Pennsylvania. Probably paid a little more for it than I should have, but It is an authentic German wheel. This is 100% complete. I did do some spinning on it. The wires are breaking off, and we don't want to replace those with cup hooks because cup hooks are a no-no. So it does need some new wires on it. This wheel in front of me is a Norwegian wheel. And the Norwegians primarily settled out in Wisconsin and Michigan and those areas. How it ended up in New Jersey, I have no idea, but it is dated on the side, and it can be authenticated that it's from 1836. So this wheel's 171 years old. This one's 137 years old. And they've held up remarkably well considering all they've been through. This one was thrown out on a garbage pile. Because they honestly didn't know. They broke the footman, and the bobbin, you can see, has a break in it, and that's a fairly new break. But it's complete. This wheel, I recently bought, in the snowstorm, in the blizzard, I bought this wheel down in Shavertown from a taxidermist, believe it or not. And this is a Farnham wheel. And Farnham lived up in New York, but actually he was born in Connecticut, and he came to Pennsylvania at some point. And it says here, what is clear is that in 1792, Joel Farnham and his mother Joanna left Old Forty Fort in Pennsylvania and pulled up the Susquehanna River to the mouth of the Owego Creek. He was 20 years old. He bought 640 acres of land in Tioga County, New York. And he erected a dam across the creek and erected mills for manufacturing of spinning wheels and other domestic articles to be used by the settlers. From the wording of the histories that we have and the 1823 advertisement, Joel Farnham began making spinning wheels in 1794, but by the 1820s he already had an established business. So although we can't date this wheel any way, we assume that it was made around the early 1800s. And it was made up in New York, and it's odd that he came from 40 Fort and the wheel ended up back in Shavertown. So these wheels move around all the time. Settlers take them, families take them. Everybody's moving all the time. So they've ended up all over the place. This wheel is for bulky spinning. It has a huge orifice. I can put my whole finger in there. This is they're often called country spinners, Indian head spinners, country cottage spinners, and this is a replica. They were made early on in the 1800s, and they were for spinning bulky wools by the Cowichan and the Salish people, and they were Indian people from Vancouver, British Columbia. In the 1970s, we had a little bit of a hippie movement, and everybody decided they were going to spin, and they were going to weave, and they were going to do all kinds of things. And two guys got together, Jack Daniels and Sid Sharples. And yes, he is from the famed Jack Daniels family. Everybody in that family has Jack in their name. His name was Walter Jack Daniels. And he retired early. He was an aerospace engineer from Rockwell. And when he retired, he went out to California and he teamed up with Sid Sharples. And Sid's wife was a master weaver, and her obituary lists her name as Geneva. But I guess everybody called her Geneva. But she was weaving very fine, but she wanted a bulky spinner. So she put the two of them to work on a bulky spinning wheel to replicate. This wheel is from the 1970s sometime, I'm not exactly sure when, and it spins very thick, chunky yarn, what we call art yarn today. And She passed away in 2010, according to her obituary, and her husband was still alive, but I can't find an obituary for Sid Sharples. I don't know. Walter Jack Daniels' granddaughter is on the computer, and she says that Sid and her grandfather made around 200 of these wheels. I have 2 out of 200. So this one's in a little better shape. The wood is all walnut. He used beautiful wood, and when it's all shined up, it really, really does look nice. But right now, these have kind of been in storage. But like I said, it would have been a Canadian wheel from our neighbors to the north. This wheel is distinctive again. It's a Canadian production wheel, what we call a CPW. It spins very, very fast. Almost took my arm off this afternoon. And it's really distinct because it has a metal treadle. It'll always have a metal treadle. And it has a tilt tension. And this is always the cast iron. So there's several different kinds. This one hasn't been identified yet. I'm not sure if there was Cataret, there was Venzia. There are numerous ones, but this wheel spins very fast because of the huge wheel on it. I think the wheel is almost 32 inches. I didn't really want this wheel. It kind of came to me in a package deal, and I said, okay. But now that I have it, I really kind of love it. These things get addictive. You start with one, and the next thing you know, you have a herd of them. We call them a herd. There's probably 20 more at home. They are collectible. Notice they said collectible, not valuable. Okay? There are very few valuable wheels. There are some. A George Washington wheel sold a couple years ago. There was 3 in existence. There's 1 in a museum. There's 1 over in Europe. And the 3rd one, the lady bought in Las Vegas, and she paid almost $50,000 for it. But that's the only 3 there are in the entire world. So for her, it was worth it. I did bid on it at $200, but that was kind of a joke. Because it wasn't going anywhere for that price, I'm sure. Today, I spin on this. This is an Ashford Traveler. It's made in New Zealand. This is New Zealand Beach. And these are workhorse of wheels. Ashford makes a fine wheel. They've been making wheels since the 1960s. This one's tricked out because you notice it's got this nice head on it. I have a woolly winder on here. The woolly winder automatically feeds the bobbin so it's nice and tight, and it doesn't end up looking like this one here that I spun on here, which I really didn't do such a bad job on. But sometimes your bobbins are uneven and you can't get a lot of yarn on there. You can pack more yarn on here with this, and it has all the bells and whistles. And it is a double treadle. Most of the older wheels are going to be single treadles. And this is a lot of fun to use. I don't really spin for business. Some people do. Will spin for other people. I don't. Kind of don't think I'm good enough yet. I'm pretty much a novice spinner at 6 or 7, 8 years. There are women in the spinning guild who have been spinning for 75 years, and they've been doing it since they were children on their grandmother's wheels. And today, there is also an electric spinner. I don't really know when these came out, but they are nice. I bought this for my old age, in case I can't treadle one of these. But it is a nice wheel because we do have some handicapped women in our guild, and they are still able to spin. And this will operate, this is a hand-controlled one, and this will plug right out of here, and there should be a foot control for this. All of my wheels are used or old, even that one. I haven't bought a brand new wheel. Someday, maybe. I don't know. It's really not necessary, I don't think, to say you have a new wheel. But We have a lot of people, most of the wheels are made elsewhere. This is made in New Zealand, the Ashford is. Kromsky wheels are very pretty, and that's really what I wanted in the beginning, and they're almost always dark wood. And they're very ornate. And the Kromsky wheels are made in Poland. Louette was made in Holland, but since then they have moved to Colorado. And we do have people in this country who make wheels. Carson Cooper, and his wheels are highly prized, and they're very expensive. They probably run roughly about $3,000. The wood is spectacular. His work is spectacular. The wheel is a precision instrument. Another guy is Norm Hall, and he makes really, really, really beautiful wheels. Again, same thing, precision instrument, gorgeous wood, fine woodworking. And now there's a new guy up in Vermont, and his name is Golding. And the Golding wheels are really spectacular. He does hand carving. He also makes looms. His wheels start at about $3,000, and they go up to $15,000, $18,000 for just one wheel. He carves hummingbirds, butterflies, fleur-de-lis. Oh, he does. He sets some of them with fine gems. They have gems in them, in the wheel itself. And I met him up at Rhinebeck, and I was offered to spin on the wheel, but I was too terrified to touch it. I thought, oh, that's all I have to do is touch this thing is have something happen to it. So I passed on that. And I have spun with Richard Ashford, met him down in Maryland. He comes over. This year he didn't, I don't think, right? Because I didn't see him. And the man who made this wheel, and I did get to spin with him, and Joe had a little video that he had taken of the two of us spinning, and that was, what, 5 or 6 years ago when I wasn't very good at all. But he was very kind, he's very personable, and they really, like I said, make a workhorse of a wheel. But they all do the same exact thing. They're all going to spin. And today we spin everything. We spin wool, we spin flax, we spin alpaca, we spin yak, vicuna. Some people do spin dog hair, I do not. But if you have a prized pet, and we have a couple women in our guild who do spin dog hair, but I don't think I want to spin it, and I don't want to wear it. Haven't gotten that desperate yet. So basically, that is about it. And this wheel belongs to this lady, and she can explain to you, this is an accelerator wheel. And this spins very, very fast. It has 2 wheels on it. And you can explain.
Give me for a second. Hey, Miss Founder, how are you? This is a wheel. I actually just bought this to add to her collection because I had no idea what she was going to be talking about. I myself have quite a collection of wheels. I'm a master spinner. This wheel is circa 1815 to 1830. It was New Hampshire, they expect. This is a very rare wheel. There's only this is one of 5 in existence. So this is one of those valuable wheels. Not 50,000. It's definitely valuable. This is very historical. This has great historical significance for the United States. These types of wheels were actually designed to spin in flax. If you notice, some of these wheels have very small flyers. This is called a flyer. This is what spins round and twists your fiber. Inside is called a bobbin. The bobbin collects it. So you either have a band slowing down the bobbin and allowing the flyer to wrap the yarn around it, or, in this case, you have a band which is designed to spin the flyer and the bobbin in the same direction. When you release the yarn go on this, because the whirl has a much smaller diameter, it will speed up and it will start to pull your yarn on. So when you see flyers, the wheels with very tiny orifices, this is the hole where the yarn goes in. And you have very small flyers, delicate, dainty, small bobbins. Almost always they're designed to spin very, very fine The finest linens, have you ever heard your grandmother talk about linens that you could almost see through? Extremely delicate wear, they'd wear multiple layers of. This is the kind of wheel that would be used to spin that. A lot of these wheels like this were the wealthy one, they were not production wheels. These were wheels for ladies to sit down and just do a little spin.
Especially the German wheels. This is like a parlor wheel. They use this for actual furniture, and she was...
And the more they would decorate it, there was more to say how much more money I had. And they would actually make their own crewel or embroidery thread on them. So they were there for a lady who wanted to do a little spinning. These types of wheels were workhorses. You can see by this wheel over here with the treadle, there's a lot of wear in the wood. That's actually where somebody's foot sat and wore down. So this wheel had a tremendous amount of use. There were times that they would actually wear through the treadles. This wheel did not. This was an expensive wheel in its day. It was designed for somebody who wanted to be able to spin a little fiber, but evidently you had it, didn't do a lot, because there's not a great deal of wear on this, fortunate for me. This is a wheel I really enjoy spinning on. It's called the accelerated wheel because you treadle the primary wheel. When you look at a spinning wheel, the large wheel is the motor. Well, in essence, it's a flywheel, you're the motor. You're making it go. This wheel spins, and if you know anything like a bicycle, how you have a larger card and then a smaller one, and the bigger one turns the smaller one faster, same principle. This goes around slower, spins this a lot faster, which spins this really fast. So you don't have to treadle very fast, and the fire on this will really move. A wheel like this is very slow.
Yeah, the smaller the drive wheel, you have to treadle like a hamster on these, they say. Now this one, it was going like crazy on the way down, and I live in Archibald, and it was really going, and people were stopping and staring, and I thought we were going to cause an accident, but even just treadling this thing, it just takes off by itself because it's so huge, it'll just keep going and going. So you actually have to stop this. If you want to stop your spinning, you're going to have to stop it because it's not going to stop by itself. Some wheels will actually come to a stop, but not this thing.
And in conjunction, you'll hear that we talked about ratio. Ratio is the relationship between your drive wheel and the whirl on the flyer. The greater the difference, the faster the flyer goes. So that's why that has a large diameter and a small whirl which spins the flyer. Makes that very fast. When you have a small wheel and a small diameter, you might only have a 4 or 5 to 1 ratio, or something like this, maybe 30, 35 to 1. This wheel is made out of poplar, maple, and some walnut. It's rather unique. Wonderful little wheel.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't have an accelerator wheel, and you probably noticed there's something else missing. Everybody's seen the great wheels from the South, and they're usually about 5 feet high, the wheel is, or maybe 6 feet high. We've seen several of them. It's a wheel I don't care to spin on. It's not a treadle wheel. You're going to stand next to the wheel, and the fiber is led onto a spindle, a penguin. Well, now penguin wheel is different, so we don't want to get into that. But yeah, it's a wheel you would, Annette has several of them, and she starts the wheel and then you draw back on it. So it's a wheel that you stand up to spin on. Obviously, all of these are meant for you to sit down and spin. There are pendulum wheels and penguin wheels that you spin on the spindle. The pendulum wheel, it has a large wheel in the front, and it's very slanted, and it comes up like this. It's a very big wheel. There was a lady out on Long Island during Hurricane Sandy. Both her and her husband died, and she had 2 penguin wheels. She used to go to Rhinebeck all the time. And yes, we lost her and the wheels. She refused to leave the house, and she did drown. She made it to the attic, but they found her. The husband returned to the house looking for the wife, and unfortunately electrical lines were down and he was electrocuted. So both of them passed away during Hurricane Sandy, and her 2 pendulum wheels were in the house and they were both lost. So a lot of wheels got lost over time. So it's really important to preserve these old ones as much as we possibly can. Like I said, I'm only their caretaker for now. Hopefully somebody else is going to have them. I don't know who. Probably not anybody in my family because no one's interested. Not yet anyway. But I got into this a little late in life, so possibly, maybe someone else will. Anybody have any questions?
Is it possible for you to give us a small demonstration?
Yes, actually I'm going to spin on the new wheel because old wheels are really finicky. All of these are. I did some spinning this afternoon on this, on the Farnham, and that's about how much I got by the time I got it tuned up. And I did a little bit of spinning on this afternoon, not much. Like I said, just kind of got it going. Really don't recommend a new spinner buy an antique wheel and try to spin because they get really frustrated and then they want to give up. And that's how people end up just, quitting because these wheels, they take a little more patience. When I'm going out to a reenactment, like we do Francis Slocum, we do Heritage Day in October, and we also do the Pittston River Festival, I'll take one of the wheels with me, just one, and I usually spend about a whole week on it, getting it set up, tuned up to where I want it to be, and then try to carefully move it to that location. They don't like to be moved around a lot. These probably won't go out of the house very much because they're very fragile. I did take this out. Where did I took it out to a reenactment, but I don't know what. This one, like I said, does have a broken flyer. It is not spinnable because this is really dangerous. If you were to spin this and that was going around and around and around, that flyer could end up over there in that back wall. So we don't want that to happen or have somebody get hurt. So right now, it's more of an ornamental piece, but I like it, and it's going to stay with me for a while. I do have to thin out my herd a little bit, my husband says. I'm trying to build a studio. I have all the supplies and everything. I really need a contractor, and that's been a little bit of a sticking point, but hopefully we're going to get somebody, and I'm going to build a studio above the garage, and all the wheels are going in there, all my looms are going in there, and then possibly I can have some visitors and other people can see the wheels and enjoy them from time to time. But I will give you a demonstration on this wheel. I have been spinning on this. I apologize, I have allergies. I guess is there? And I don't know if everything's on here because I really didn't check this afternoon. Most of the time we spin barefoot. It allows your foot to get in real contact with the treadle and you get a feel for the wheel and what it's going to do. So if you see all these women around at fairs and festivals, probably none of them are wearing shoes, and that's the reason why. Ooh, what do we got here? You want to adjust your tension. Like I said, I haven't played with this, so I'm not real sure how it's going to participate. I'm drawing the fiber out. And I'm just going to add a new piece, and we're going to pull. I can get that to join. Yep, there we go. I pre-drafted this fiber. I always pre-draft because sometimes I get a little carried away. And then I end up with this thick mess. You're just going to draft your fiber, thin it out, and it feeds into the wheel. Of course, the faster you spin, the more twist you're going to have. Really want it to be even. That is the consistency. And I'm still not spinning consistent, but again, I'm only a hobby spinner. I'm not a professional spinner. I don't do it for profit. I don't do it for production.
You're controlling the consistency out.
I'm pinching here,
Yeah.
holding a little tighter here, and drawing the fiber out.
Okay.
And when it has enough twist in it, kind of releasing it into the orifice here, and it's going onto the bobbin. I don't have to change hooks or anything on this one, obviously, because like I said, it has this woolly wind around it. This is going back and forth, and it's loading that bobbin evenly.
Seems like it would be really therapeutic.
It is. It honestly is. And as a matter of fact, sometimes during guild, sometimes people fall asleep. It is very relaxing. Sometimes people say after a long day at work, they just want to come home and spin. And I have a friend I went to school with, Lisa, and Lisa's in my spinning guild. And she's been there a lot longer than I have. And Lisa said she gets up in the morning, she spins for 15 minutes before she gets ready for work. And she said it just makes her whole day go better. So it is calming when it works properly, I should say. Sometimes, like I said, especially with the antique wheels, you get frustrated, start pulling on the fiber, and then if we just, like I said, if it should get, these are all little hairs, like little split ends, if you put this under a microscope. So they like attach to each other.
What is that?
This is wool. I'm not sure exactly what kind. And I'm spinning singles right now. What is on this bobbin is a single, and you can see that there are several bobbins for this wheel. I ply everything. This is applied bobbin. I've spun 2 singles, and then I take the 2 singles, and then to ply them together, the wheel is going to go backwards. Now it's going frontwards, and it'll go backwards, and then you twist it together to form a yarn. And then I can crochet with this, I can knit with this, I can weave with this, I can do whatever. But these on here are singles, and you can use these. They're just not as strong as anything, obviously, that's plied together. So this is Corriedale. I'm not sure what this one was. I didn't find the label from it. But yeah, this is a single, and if I take the 2 singles and I ply them together, I come out with this.
How does that all get put together that you're spinning? The orange and this purple stuff.
Okay, that's roving, and I bought it that way. This is modern day wool. It's already been carded, it's been put together, it's been dyed, and then it comes into a roving form. This is just some raw, well, it's not raw wool, it's badly washed wool. I don't know what this is. This is kind of a grab bag of things. And this is how roving comes also. I think this might be Ashland Bay, this stuff. This is something off somebody's sheep that somebody washed and it's full of vegetable matter still. You can see hay in it and everything.
How does that turn into the other stuff?
Well, you can hand card. There's a lot of preparation. That's why hand spinning, anything hand spun is going to be very expensive. First, we have to shear the sheep. And now that wool is really greasy. It has lanolin in it. And it has to be washed. Usually about 3 times it gets washed. And you're going to have all this grease. You can feel a little lanolin still in this. This was a poor wash job. I didn't do it, but I don't know who did. Like I said, this was a grab bag of wool. First, you need to wash it. You can't agitate it, because if you agitate it, it's going to turn into felt. It'll turn into felt, so you have to really be careful, but the water's got to be hot to get that lanolin out because it's really sticky and greasy. I didn't bring any raw fiber. I didn't think anybody really wanted to feel any of it. This one might be an Ashland Bay too. I think this might be like a silk mix. And that's already dyed. This, I'm not sure what it is, some type of a wool. This seems to be a short wool. I tried to spin with this afternoon, and it kept like coming apart, so I'm assuming that it's some type of a short wool. Yeah, good, we have a piece of this. This is run through on a drum carder. Like I said, first you're gonna wash the wool, and then you've got to comb it or card it. I did not bring those things with me. Hand cards have all these little teeth in them, 72 tines per inch, and they're like little needles, and you comb it this way on the carder. Now they have a machine. Back then they didn't. We have drum carders. You take your wool like this and spread it out a little bit and feed it into the drum carder, turn the handle, and it comes out in a bat like this. And this has, you can see there's some glitter in it. This is what we call an art bat. It's got a lot of different things mixed in it, a little bit of glitter. It's really soft. And then if we wanted to turn it into a roving, into something thicker like this, it would be fed through what's called a diz. But the top from a spice jar works just as well, by the way. And then it will come out like thicker, because all these little hairs, they just keep getting caught on each other. This is really soft. I'm not sure what that is. Lisa in the Spinning Guild, you heard me talk about Lisa. She raises Angora rabbits. Lisa gave me this some time ago. And this is like so soft. And you've got to be a pretty good spinner to spin this. I haven't attempted it yet. I've had it about a year. And it's just a cloud of fuzz. but the rabbit hair is rather short, so it's a little more difficult to spin. There's long wools, there's short wools. The alpaca is a little more slippery, like the Angora. So it really depends, and all wools have a difference. Some are what we call skin soft, so you can wear them next to your neck. Some of them are really coarse. Some of the wools are really coarse, so that would kind of like make a sweater jacket or something. You're going to wear something under, because it's kind of picky. But now we mix it with silk. We blend things together. We blend merino with alpaca. There's also something, I don't know when it came to be, superwash yarn and superwash fiber. They add a chemical into it so it won't shrink, because wool will definitely shrink. You take a wool sweater and put it in the dryer, it's going to come out and fit your dog. A little dog. So superwash tends to be a little sticky, I found. I don't know. For me,
Depends on the fabric. I've had some super fine, gorgeous stuff.
Really? I found it to be sticky. I don't know if it's because of the chemical that's in it or what it is. None of these I know are superwash. I don't think there's any in here. What this is. Like I said, this was kind of a grab bag of wool. Sometimes if wool isn't suitable for spinning, we use it for felting. I make felt flowers. Really can felt just about anything. Hot pads. We do scarves today. I do Nuno felting. I do wet felting. I do needle felting. You can make a hat out of this. You can make a scarf out of this just by felting it. So there's really so many applications that you can do with, I want to say, wool, silk, that type of stuff. These are all commercial, like I said, except for this. I don't know how this ended up in there, but yeah, and after, because they are sheep, you're going to see vegetable matter in here, and it's usually hay and pieces of seeds and stuff like that, and you do want to pick these out. So raw wool is kind of really a lot to work with because, like I said, you shear the sheep, you're going to wash the wool, you're going to comb it, you're going to card it, then you're going to spin it, then you're going to apply it, and then finally you might get to make something with it. So it takes an awful lot of work. Of course, mills can do that in record time with no problem at all, but the average home spinner, it is an awful lot of work to get a sweater. Anybody else have any questions?
Ursula said that she dyes hers with Kool-Aid.
You can dye wool with Kool-Aid. We don't really know how color fast it is. I don't think there's anything here that probably is. We use acid dyes. I don't dye. I haven't dyed anything as of yet. Like I said, another process and an extra step of labor. It is an awful lot of work. This is commercially dyed. This, I believe, is from Ashland Bay. But just to, dye each one a green, a blue, a yellow, and then to combine them together, it is an awful lot of work. It really is. So most of us today use commercial roving, or a lot of small cottage industries. There's a lot of people on the internet that have small farms and they dye their own, and I purchase from them. And I had a bag in here from Bitsy, but I don't know where it is. You heard me say I work for several vendors at Maryland Sheep and Wool. I attend Maryland Sheep and Wool in Rhinebeck, and we have the Endless Mountains Fiber Festival. But Bitsy can fit 4 ounces into this little bag. 4 ounces of fiber can fit in here because she has it down to a roving about that big around, and then it's coiled up and fits in this tiny little bag. So, like I said, you can buy it in all forms. Pardon me?
Would that make a sweater?
No. 4 ounces really isn't going to make much of anything. I like to spin 8 ounces. I'm an 8-ounce spinner. My first batch, nobody told me how much to buy. So I went to the Endless Mountains Fiber Festival. I bought a pound. Took me a whole year to spin it. That was my first one. I thought I'd never get done with it. And yeah, so now I stick to 8 ounces. I did buy some down in Maryland from 2 ladies in the main building, and I think one of them was like 12 ounces, and I think one might be a pound. But that's going to be for a special project.
That small bag, she had 4 ounces. If you want to spin real fine, fond of doing spinning fine, you could make a wedding ring shawl out of 1 ounce.
Yeah, a lot of people, like I said, I don't spin that fine. I don't spin like frog's lace or lace weight. Probably most of what I'm spinning is what's called fingering weight, or even like a DK. Yeah, it's a little bit thicker. I try to spin a little bit thicker. I really don't want to spin fine, just because it's really hard to work with. And honestly, I'd love to get some bulky stuff off of there because I like fast, quick projects.
Arm knitting.
No, that I didn't like.
I mean, you could spin it thick enough and
Oh yeah, yeah. A lot of rug yarn comes off of here, those kind of wheels, because it's thick, it's coarse wool, and you can use it for rug making. Anybody else have any questions?
Weaving? Do you do weaving?
I'm starting.
What's the next process from spinners? Do a lot of spinners weave or not?
Yes and no. Some people just knit and crochet and use it for other, needlework. A lot of us do weave. You can weave with, again, just about anything. My interest is rag rugs, and those are the looms that I have. And I do have some other looms, and I do have some rigid heddles, some smaller ones now. You can weave with yarn, you can weave with rags, you can weave with plant material, just about anything. But yeah, my interest, I think, lies in the bulkier stuff. Like I said, I have always had a thing for rag rugs. I don't know why. Probably because we always had rag rugs at home. And my grandmother and my mother used to cut the rags up, and they used to take it to two elderly ladies over by Sickler's Pond, if anybody knows the area. And these two old women had a loom. Now, maybe it was because I was little, I don't know, but they had one whole room in the house, and she would have laundry baskets and bushel baskets of rags for everybody in the neighborhood, and she was spinning or weaving the rugs for all different people. It was kind of like a trade-off type deal. And I don't know, I've always been fascinated by rag rugs. I love them. I still have them in my house, in my kitchen. And actually there is one in the living room. And that is really where my interest was supposed to be, but somehow it just kind of got a little sidetracked. Pardon me? Oh, my eco printing? Right now I ventured into a new project. My mother doesn't have hers on today, and I don't have one with me. It's called eco printing. And it has nothing to do with spinning or weaving, but once you get into these fiber arts, things just kind of travel along. And what it is I'm printing leaves and flowers and grass from outside onto silk scarves. And it's been a lot of fun. I gave my mom one for Mother's Day. Came out really, really nice. Another experimental project. So just, like I said, when you get involved in textiles and fiber arts, it can go anywhere, anywhere at all.
So how do you do the eco printing?
I've been buying silk blanks from Dharma, and then I wash the scarves in Synthropol, and just to make sure there's no gum in them or anything, because silk, again, has to be washed and washed and washed and washed because silkworms leave little gummies. So you want to make sure your silk has gum free. So after I wash the scarves, you can mordant with lots of different things. A mordant is so it will accept a dye. I was using alum acetate, and then some of them I did put in tannin. Bark, but I bought commercial tannin. I wasn't about to boil bark. So I did buy commercial tannin, and then once they're again dry, they dry 3 or 4 times. Just lay it out on the table, spray it down with white vinegar, and put your plant material on there, whatever it is. Certain things print better than others. Ginkgo leaves don't really print. I thought they were really neat, the ginkgos, but they really don't print that well. Geraniums print, pansies print.
So what you're doing is laying the plant material fresh on it and it rolls the color and the shape.
And then after I have it all laid out, I take you can use anything. You could use a stick branch, you can use a copper pipe, you can use PVC, and we just roll that scarf up really tight onto there, tie it with a piece of yarn all the way around or a piece of string, and then it gets steamed in the oven for like 2 hours in an old roaster. And then I wait for it to cool, take it apart, and see what we've got.
Okay, so basically it's just drawing the color or whatever you put in the shape, I'm presuming?
Yes, yeah. And then, well, if you use, we did it up in the New York Guild. We did it outside at Amy Parker's farm last year. And we actually did base dyeing with Queen Anne's lace. And we did some base dyeing with roses, just a whole pile of roses we threw in the roaster and kind of base dyed it. We did do indigo and we did cochineal and we did some other things. Like I said, you can use natural dyes, you can use commercial dyes. It's endless. It's just totally endless. You can dye wool with Queen Anne's lace. You can dye wool with dandelions. Then you can purchase commercial dyes. So fiber art is just really endless. It just keeps going and going and going. And somebody always comes out with something new. This was a form of weaving that I did at Rhinebeck last year, and I ended up buying that loom. And this is twining. And it's done on a frame. And it was a pot holder. As you could see, I never really did finish it off. But this is just rags, and it's a method of crossing it over, feeding it under, a lot of hand dexterity. So it...
Can you pass it around?
Pardon me?
Would you pass it around?
Sure. Yeah, this is way less than perfect. This was a class I took at Rhinebeck last year, lady did. So, like I said, if anybody wants to see it, but like I said, it's just endless with the way you can, you know, twirl things around and weave them and twine them. And that's a method of weaving called twining. And you can do twining with yarn. You can do twining with rags. You could probably do it with like bamboo or flax or something like that. Annette, the girl I spoke to you about, the Great Wheel, Annette is doing a dyer's garden, and I think she's on a farm tour down in Shavertown. I think we're doing it in June.
Now, with your, getting back to the eco dyeing, how long do you put it in the oven for and at what temperature?
Like about 200 degrees for 2 hours. The longer you leave it, probably the darker it's going to be, but you don't want to leave it too long because you don't want to cook silk.
No.
Because then it's going to get really brittle.
I was thinking if you did it a short time, you could get a really subtle pattern. If you did it a long
Right,
time,
watercolors,
you might not want
yeah. And you can actually boil them too. I put down, in the roaster, I just put down a dinner plate upside down and put my bundles, was what we call them, on top of there. And then I put a piece of tin foil around to clamp it really tight. Then I put the lid on and put it in the oven for like 2 hours.
I just like the idea of putting plant material on a
Yeah.
raw, plain piece of silk and getting all these different colors and
Organic,
shapes.
yeah.
Very organic,
Could
yeah.
you do it in the sun if you let it?
You
and-
probably could, but you might
You
wouldn't be-
could,
Especially like today and tomorrow.
wouldn't be as consistent.
Do you know what I mean? The heat,
Yeah,
if
sure.
it's moist.
Solar.
You can do solar dyeing outside, even wool. We put it in quart jars
Yeah.
and pack it full of dandelions or roses or whatever you want to use. Queen Anne's lace. It's not time for Queen Anne's lace right now, but you pack it into the jars and you can set it out in the sun. You can't really do like a pound of wool at a time in a quart jar. So you're going to have small amounts, but you want to pack it tight, leave it out in the sun, And the longer you leave it, the darker it's going to become until it exhausts the dye in that plant.
Oh, we got lots of dandelions.
Oh, we do too. I told my husband not to dig them out. He's been digging them out and I've been yelling at him. I told him, no, 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 they're valuable.
There's an endless supply.
They're valuable. Don't dig those out.
Are there any more questions for Debbie?
Do you know anything about tatting?
No, I don't. But my mother's sister tatted for years, my Aunt Teresa, and she passed away. Her daughter owns a business out in Michigan called Timeless Stitches, and Denise tats, and she also does bobbin lace. And bobbin lace is all these little bobbins about that long with little tiny fine threads on them, and then they pin them out and you swap one bobbin over the other and this one over that. And I do not have the patience or the dexterity. Like I said, I like bulky. Anything bulky, I'm in. Count me in. The more the better.
Tatting is with little shuttles. It's kind of like tying.
Yeah, it's a little tiny shuttle about that big.
It's more like knotting and
I don't know. I will ask the girls in the guild. Like I said, I'm not sure if anybody tats. I haven't seen anybody do it.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. All right, well, thank you very much, Debbie.
Thank you.
That's so cool. I'm so glad you came. Thank you very much. All right, well, the pizza is here, and we have water and some cookies that somebody brought in today, raffle tickets up front, and next month is Our Lady Digger, so we hope we see you next month. Thank you again, Debbie.
Oh, thank you.